We're talking about an explosion that reverberates through the entire city of Birmingham. Everybody heard it.
I was at South Illerton Baptist Church, and our pastor was shifting kind of nervously across the room and said he had received word that 16th Street Baptist Church had been bombed.
I was in Sunday school class. The building seemed like it was shaking off its foundation. Fumes, smelling fumes, and getting hit in the head. I couldn't find my younger sister. Only later to find out that she was taken to the hospital. She was only 4. And she was cut in the head. Blood dripping down her clothes and down her face.
Reverend John Cross comes down after the explosion to go into the hole and hears moaning.
My father heard somebody saying, Addie, Addie, and he realized that Sarah was calling her sister's name because that's the last voices that she heard before the explosion occurred.
They find the bodies and they're almost literally stacked on top of each other.
He said they looked like they had been blown together.
It devastated me. It was just so painful to know that these girls were killed at church. They had not done anything to deserve something like that.
That was enough to pull people off the fence. Kids are supposed to be safe at church. This is not supposed to happen in America. We're above this kind of thing. And so this was the catalyst to get some things moving.
The destination is on your right.
September 15th. September 15th? That's the same date that the bombing happened.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was our first day of our worship into the worship center.
So how much of the church was destroyed?
Just that back portion back there, I think, suffered significant damage. Over there that they built in honor for girls and
We kind of toured historical sites and significant places in Black history, and where significant events happened, like the Emmett Till murder, and we just kind of gained more information on why we do what we do and everything that we're fighting towards through that experience. And for me personally, it was mostly a learning experience and very educational and traumatic to an extent, but it's necessary for us to see in order for us to be prepared to do the work that we want to continue doing through the Carl Spain Center and long after we graduate and on into our lives.
The ocean goes out, right, on the low tide. It goes out for a minute in the growing of the moon. It comes back in on the high tide. It brings something back in with it.
Right.
It'll bring up what we think is junk, but somebody else's treasure. But the only way I can expand my knowledge, my capacity, is that I have to regurgitate that knowledge. Your professor, when he emptied out his knowledge, and he goes, wait, I need to pour something else. I don't have anything else to give to you. I don't have anything else to give to you, or you. So what do I have to do? I got to go back in. I have to go back and open up another book. You're still learning, aren't you, sir? You still studying, aren't you, sir? But you're a professor, aren't you, sir?
Right.
So it's just like the going in the growing of the moon and in and out of the tide. So I have to go back out and dig. I still study. My sister tell you, do we not? This is my accountability part. We study, we pray. We don't only pray to God and study biblical knowledge, but we study secular knowledge. So I have to have something to pour into you, pour into you, and pour into you, and pour into you. So you know what that does? It expands our capacity. So when I empty out, I can't come to you empty.
Right.
I got to pour into myself so I can continue to drop nuggets of wisdom into you, you, and you. And that's what he's doing.
That's it.
And that's what we do. So we are a people strong, we are a people mighty, and we are a people powerful.
That's right.
And that's what we're doing.
And let me tell you how we do it. We do it through God and
That's
His
it.
Word.
That's it.
His Word. And just know that God is trying to get the male out of the families.
Yes.
When He have the male out of the family, then He can mess with the female's mind.
That's it. That's it.
Because we think with our mind and emotional and intelligent and all of that. But males think with what you see right here.
Yeah.
If we get y'all out, that's what the enemy wants. He wants the males out of the family.
That's right. That's
so it's
right.
up to you, if you father a child, to be in their life.
That's it.
Pass on what you know from the Christian university you're going to.
That's it.
And what Mr.
Taylor. Mr. Taylor.
has poured into you.
Yes.
Always keep God first,
Keep
at the
him
center.
first. Keep him
I
first.
tell you, once you do that, nothing else. Because they say what? A weapon can form right here. Form, but it don't have to prosper.
They will not
It won't
prosper.
hit you. It won't hit you.
That's it.
All right? All right.
Awesome. It was awesome meeting you.
That was beautiful.
Because we're your mothers, and we're the mothers of many.
That's right.
Yeah.
And our goal is to raise up sons that are
Yeah.
kings.
Have mercy.
We're queens, and our queen will only raise a king.
My.
That's right. That's
Only
right.
raise a queen.
Now y'all think I had this plan. But God had it planned.
Yes,
On the steps of this church right here today.
The steps of the church.
Yeah.
Jerry is a professor at Abilene Christian University. He is the director of the Carl Spain Center for Racial Healing. And he's brought his staff here with the camera, and God has worked in a mysterious way. As we meet here at 16th Street Baptist Church. These are doctoral students at Lipscomb University, and this is really amazing. Tell us a little bit about the Spain Center.
Well, after my initial shock, I still can't believe this is happening.
I know.
My goodness. A few years ago, we came here with David on a tour. We had about 25 white ministers and 25 black ministers. And this was one of the spots that we stopped at. But we have a meeting tonight with the elders of Homewood Church of Christ, who will be hosting the Racial Unity Leadership Summit here in Birmingham in September. And so we're meeting with them to kind of have some conversation about what to expect. And so I brought with me the Carl Spain Center staff and our own videographer right here, Isaiah. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you all.
My name is Roland. I'm the executive assistant for the Carl Spain Center. I just recently graduated from Abilene Christian University with an information systems degree.
My name's Alex. I'm the financial manager for the Carl Spain Center. I'm going into my senior year, ACU, and I'm a business major.
This is the leader. This is our leader in Churches of Christ. He's the moral center for racial healing in our fellowship.
Oh, God is putting something in my throat.
A frog. It's a
Keep
frog.
me humble after those wonderful words. But this guy here is a godsend in my life. He was instrumental in pushing me to write my first book. And so I'm so happy to see you, man, dear friend. And I want to introduce y'all to these two angels here that we met up the stairs just by God chance, not by happenstance. So y'all introduce yourselves to the group here.
Well, my name is Lynn Roberts. I live in Fort Rucker now, but I'm a 28-year military veteran. I'm originally from New Orleans, but I retired in Fort Rucker. And we're just here. Whenever we get a chance, we share Jesus. Whenever we get a chance, we want to share Jesus and to pour into our youth. So just so happened they were there. We were going to the church. We just want to pour in some knowledge on them. That's all. And share Jesus in any way we can.
Hi, my name is Allie Norman. I'm the owner of Teachable Moments. We came up on a business trip, and like you said, we just like the opportunity to share Jesus and to pour knowledge into our youth. And we were just coming up to look up to see what was going on, and didn't want to interrupt the documentary, we thought. And so we're just here to share Jesus with everybody, and minding our business, we thought, to do what I had to do today. And so I'm a veteran too. I did not retire and do as many years as Lynn did. But I was kind of choked up today just to see what the Lord does. We think sometimes we strike out to do what we think our agenda is. But God has a way of turning things to what His agenda is. And it's always about humanity. And it's always about Jesus. And it's always about what He has called us to do for His cause and for humanity. So just thank you, sir, for your opportunity. You blessed us today.
Thank you for your service.
Yes.
We're going to go around and do a little memorial for the slain girls, and we're going to have one of the students going to do a reading. You all are welcome to join us.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Reading Martin Luther Jr.'s eulogy for the little girls.
Yeah, we're lead the way.
Y'all game? All right.
Lead the way.
I feel really humbled to have the opportunity to read these words from Dr. King on September 18th, 1963. This afternoon we gather in the quiet of this sanctuary to pay our last tribute of respect to these beautiful children of God. They entered the stage of history just a few years ago, and in the brief years they were privileged to act on this mortal stage, they played their parts exceedingly well. Now the curtain falls. They move through the exit. The drama of their earthly life comes to a close. They are now committed back to that eternity from which they came. These children, unoffending, innocent, and beautiful, were the victims of one of the most vicious and tragic crimes ever perpetrated against humanity. And yet, they died nobly. They are the martyred heroines of a holy crusade for freedom and human dignity. And so this afternoon, in a real sense, they have something to say to each of us in their death. They have something to say to every minister of the gospel who has remained silent behind the safe security of stained glass windows. They have something to say to every politician who has fed his constituents with the stale bread of hatred and the spoiled meat of racism. They have something to say to a federal government that has compromised with the undemocratic practices of Southern Dixiecrats and the blatant hypocrisy of right-wing Northern Republicans. They have something to say to every Negro who has passively accepted the evil system of segregation and who has stood on the sidelines in a mighty struggle for justice. They say to each of us, black and white alike, that we must substitute courage for caution. They say to us that we must be concerned not merely about who murdered them, but about the system, the way of life, the philosophy which produced the murderers. Their death says to us that we must work passionately and unrelentingly for the realization of the American dream. And so, my friends, they did not die in vain. God still has a way of wringing good out of evil. And history has proven over and over again that unmerited suffering is redemptive. The innocent blood of these little girls may well serve as a redemptive force that will bring new light to this dark city. The Holy Scripture says, "A little child shall lead them." The death of these little children may lead our whole Southland from the low road of man's inhumanity to the high road of peace and brotherhood. These tragic deaths may lead our nation to substitute an aristocracy of character for an aristocracy of color. The spilled blood of these innocent girls may cause the whole citizenry of Birmingham to transform the negative extremes of a dark past into the positive extremes of a bright future. Indeed, this tragic event may cause the white South to come to terms with its conscience. And so I stand here to say this afternoon to all assembled here that in spite of the darkness of this hour, we must not despair. We must not become bitter, nor must we harbor the desire to retaliate with violence. No, we must not lose faith in our white brothers. Somehow we must believe that the most misguided among them can learn to respect the dignity and the worth of all human personality. May I now say a word to you, the members of the bereaved families. It is almost impossible to say anything that can console you at this difficult hour and remove the deep clouds of disappointment which are floating in your mental skies. But I hope you can find a little consolation from the universality of this experience. Death comes to every individual. There is an amazing democracy about death. It is not aristocracy for some of the people, but a democracy for all of the people. Kings die and beggars die. Rich men and poor men die. Old people die and young people die. Death comes to the innocent and it comes to the guilty. Death is the irreducible common denominator of all men. I hope you can find some consolation from Christianity's affirmation that death is not the end. Death is not a period that ends the great sentence of life, but a comma that punctuates it to more lofty significance. Death is not a blind alley that leads the human race into a state of nothingness, but an open door which leads man into life eternal. Let this daring faith, this great invincible surmise, be your sustaining power during these trying days. Now I say to you in conclusion, life is hard. At times as hard as crucible steel. It has its bleak and difficult moments. Like the ever-flowing waters of the river, life has its moments of drought and its moments of flood. Like the ever-changing cycle of the seasons, life has the soothing warmth of its summers and the piercing chill of its winters. And if one will hold on, he will discover that God walks with him and that God is able to lift you from the fatigue of despair to the buoyancy of hope, and transform dark and desolate valleys into sunlit paths of inner peace. And so today, you do not walk alone. You gave to this world wonderful children. They didn't live long lives, but they lived meaningful lives. Their lives were distressingly small in quantity, but glowingly large in quality. And no greater tribute can be paid to you as parents, and no greater epitaph can come to them as children than where they died and what they were doing when they died. They did not die in the dives and dens of Birmingham, nor did they die discussing and listening to filthy jokes. They died between the sacred walls of the Church of God, and they were discussing the eternal meaning of love. This stands out as a beautiful, beautiful thing for all generations. Shakespeare had Horatio to say some beautiful words as he stood over the dead body of Hamlet. And today, as I stand over the remains of these beautiful, darling girls, I paraphrase the words of Shakespeare. Good night, sweet princesses. Good night, those who symbolize a new day. And may the flight of angels take thee to thy eternal rest. God bless you.